Heather, good morning.
Jason, good morning.
And how are
Good
you
morning.
today?
I'm great. I'm great. We no more soccer for my kids for a few weeks, but we went to a friend's soccer game instead. So,
Wow.
uh-huh.
Wow,
Yeah.
that you're a good friend to go to another kid's soccer game. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
She's
something I never really thought I would ever do.
I went to I think it was Judah that played basketball.
Nope.
Maybe it was Joss. It was
Yep.
Joss. Yeah. I went
Yeah.
to Joss's basketball game.
Yeah, she
Mhm.
loved
One or
basketball.
two. But she's a swimmer now
She total swimmer. Judah's swimming too.
for school.
No, for survival. Yes, for school.
Okay.
So
Awesome. Well, hey, maybe we should talk about chapter five and not our children or our friends'
there's
children.
swimming involved, kind
There
of.
is. Wow, what
Yeah.
a segue.
I'm a former youth pastor. I know how to segue. I'm
That's
good. You
great.
just got to pay attention to everything and say, I'll get it back. I'll get back to it. Just
Yeah.
remember how I got here. I'll get back to it. So, and it's
Uh-huh.
easy. Yeah. So, speaking of
Wow.
swimmers, we meet Gollum
Oh, man.
as,
I don't like that at all.
yeah. The first time I read The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, like the way it's described is it's a swallowing sound, like
Okay.
Gollum. That's how I
Ew.
thought it forever. Gollum, like that. And then I watched the movies and Circus is like clearing his throat all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
I think the
kind of gross.
gulping golem is worse, actually.
Yeah, they're both bad. And I mean it's helpful because he's a monster.
True.
So what are you gonna do? So all right, Heather,
Yeah.
why don't you give us your synopsis of chapter 5, Riddles in the Dark?
Riddles in the dark. Yes. So just as a reminder, from chapter four,
Uh-huh.
Bilbo had gotten knocked off Dory's shoulders
Yep.
because Dory got nabbed.
Right.
And so Bilbo blacked out. He is now waking up. It is still super dark. And he's like, are my eyes even open? It's too dark to know. So he kind of tries to get his bearings about him and starts going what he thinks is the right way. And at one point, he finds a ring, and he doesn't know it yet, but this is a turning point in his career.
I love that.
Yeah, I thought that was a fun line. Anyway, he was miserable. He thought of home again and starts to feel a little better because he remembered, or like he found his dagger somewhere in his pockets, one of his many
Probably
pockets,
in the sheath that the dagger was in,
attached to his
right?
belt. Or
Yeah, probably. Like that's
did he
usually
have
how
a
where
belt?
people wear knives and daggers.
Hey, you know what? I just finished a book called American Dirt, which is really good. And she has her machete in like her
Machete?
sock. Machete. Yeah.
What?
Machete in
What?
like her like sock. Yeah. So
How big are her socks? And is this
maybe she's
machete
wearing tube socks.
is this the dullest machete ever? Because
Maybe, well, maybe
it's
it
not
has a
cutting through
sheath
cotton.
too. Maybe it's in a sheath, but she has to put it on her leg in her
Okay.
sock.
All right. Sorry.
Okay. Anyway,
American Dirt.
yeah, it's
All
really
right.
good. You
Sure.
should listen to it,
I'll
read
add
it,
it to one
whatever.
of my list of books.
Oh my gosh, y'all, the list of books. Jason's a massive nerd and made a spreadsheet of his books. Anyway, so
Can't
Bilbo,
hurt me.
I know. Anyway, he's in a tight space, eventually gets to Gollum's Lake.
Right.
Uh, Gollum approaches Bilbo, um, starts up with some riddles
Right.
as a way to learn more about the other, friend or
Mm-hmm.
foe, food or not, etc. Um, and they agreed that if one of them doesn't answer, the other one gets like what the other one, or gets to make the other one do what they want him to do, or slash get eaten.
Right.
And we'll talk about the riddles later, but finally, Bilbo gets one last riddle and he can't think of anything and starts like, feeling for his pockets and says, "What's in my pockets?" And that Gollum takes that as like, oh, final riddle, and it fails it. Um, so then since they agreed, it was a gentleman's agreement that he would take him out through the back door, which sounds really weird. But take him to the back door is what I meant to. Not any better. And so he says he'll show him the way out. That's it. But wants to go to get his stuff first.
Right.
So he goes back out to his island in the middle of the lake and is looking for the ring that was his birthday present many, many years ago.
Hmm.
And the ring is not there because Bilbo has found it.
Right. At that point, though, Gollum is not saying, "Where's my ring? Where's my ring?"
No.
So Bilbo doesn't know, like, what's he looking for? Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But Bilbo is like, "What are you looking for?" Gollum asks, "What do you have in your pockets?" Gets mad and starts chasing after him, and then he
Turns
disappears.
out it's the same thing.
Because the ring makes you disappear.
Yeah.
Unless you're in the sun. And even then, all you see is the shadow.
Right.
So
yes.
Remember that because it'll come back. Gollum starts monologuing, not knowing that Bilbo was right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he figures out Bilbo must have the ring, but he doesn't know how it works. I'm sure he doesn't know how it works. So he must have escaped and gone to the back door and not realized that Bilbo did not know how it worked and follows Gollum to his escape. Bilbo eventually jumps over him, and it's 7 feet forward and 3 feet in the air, and Gollum is like, oof, and Bilbo's like, oh, gotta be quicker than that.
He air-butted over him.
Straight up air-butt. Oh my gosh, air-bud. Anyway, Gollum's like super depressed now because he's lost everything. He hates Baggins forever. Bilbo eventually sees like some sort of outdoorsy light and sees that it's like blocked. It's a door, obviously, and it's blocked by goblins, but they can't see him because of the ring. And eventually the ring kind of falls off and they see him. And then he puts it back on and they're like, whoa. And then he gets to the door that is just barely open and he tries to squeeze through it because he can't push it open any further. And like buttons of his waistcoat and all of that start popping off. And somebody sees the shadow is like, there's something there. But he gets out and then he stays in the shadows of the trees. Yep. That's it. Perfect.
Bilbo
Chapter 5
had
done.
Escaped.
Bilbo had escaped. But goblins, I read that they don't like sun anyway, as it makes their legs wobble and their heads giddy.
Yes.
And I would have to say that, like, the first growing up in Seattle, we got months of not a lot of sun. And when it was sunny, it was often cold. Mm-hmm. And so that first like hot day of April or May just took everything out of you. Like, I don't know if you've had like, no, is that just me?
I don't think it depleted my energy.
It like, anytime there was like a crazy hot day after the months of sad, I would go outside and do whatever all day long. And then I'd get home and I'd just lay down on the couch and be like,
well,
I'm tired now.
I wouldn't blame that on the sun. I would blame that on the doing whatever.
No, I think it's the sun. Pedantic wench. There's a poem where I think they call it a pedantic wench. That's
the sun?
The sun. Uh-huh.
All right. That's cool. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you for your synopsis of this chapter. You did a good job.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that you didn't go through all of the riddles.
No.
I don't know how they understood a lot of the riddles.
I was thinking the same. Like, I mean, as soon as they said what it was, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I get that.
Like the mountain. Okay, cool. Time. Got it. But the one where they're talking about the fish and the bones and the cat gets the bones, like What?
Oh, I didn't get that at all.
Oh, yeah, it's one of the last ones. Let me
No, I
see here.
know. I'm just saying, like, I didn't understand it.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Not like you didn't read it.
no, I read it.
I read it. Sure, 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 sure.
I got it.
Where is it?
But
It was one of my like the worst ones. Like I don't even understand what that means. How would you ever know this?
yeah. Um,
Anyway.
time. Hold on. No, that's not it. Okay. Well, yeah, I don't remember where it was.
Oh, no legs
Um,
lay on one leg, two legs sat near on three legs, four legs got some. What? What? Okay, no legs lay on one leg. All right, that's a fish, no legs.
yeah,
What's the one leg?
a
Right?
plate,
No legs. Yeah, I guess fish on a little table. So table has one leg.
which seems like it's just a wine barrel
Maybe. I don't
table.
know. I don't know. Yeah, it's just the dumbest riddle I've ever heard.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So anything in this that you're like, huh, what's going on with this chapter here, or what is happening? Any questions or concerns?
Yeah, there was one like right at the beginning of the chapter, uh, when he was saying that the line is Bilbo was in okay, I wrote it down. Bilbo was in a tight place, but not as tight for him as it would be for me or you. Who is this
Yeah,
talking?
yeah. I still want to believe that Bilbo wrote most of this, and
Okay.
and then there is an editor's voice later.
But
That
what
is
shouldn't that
because like also in the mountain story, they were kicking it like a football, right?
what?
There was a line where the giants were kicking
Oh,
stones
right,
like
right, 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 right.
footballs, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I think there's like these anachronisms that happen in this book that I think are
Oh.
somebody coming in later trying to make sense of the text.
Because Bilbo wouldn't have known what a football is,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Frodo wouldn't have known what a
No.
football is.
Yeah. So I still hold that the majority of this text was written by Bilbo, like the majority of the Pentateuch written by Moses.
Sure.
But there's somebody came along later who told us that Moses is the most humble man to ever live. Right?
You don't think it was Moses?
Pretty
You
sure.
don't think he just kind of shot that in there, like, hey,
Last words. Write this
end
down
of
real
days
quick.
here.
People need to
Forgive me,
know.
Father. People need to know.
I've been working so hard at being humble. I was getting really good at it.
You tell
Yeah.
anybody about that. Anyway.
So I still hold that Bilbo is the one who crafted the story.
Okay.
And I'm positive there's going to be people who will be like, no, that's not possible. But I am fine with it. So, because like the story is all Bilbo all the time. We don't get any other perspectives. So we don't really get to like anybody telling us what happened when Bilbo's not around is telling that to Bilbo.
Oh,
And we haven't seen any of that yet. We'll see it next
no.
chapter a little
Next
bit.
chapter. Okay. Okay.
So when
I
the dwarves are going to say to Bilbo, like, hey, this is what happened to us. But that's
oh
not the narrator telling us that. That's them
no.
telling Bilbo.
Right.
So
Right. I will say, Jason, I almost kept reading today. Like, I want to just do this chapter by chapter because I don't want to talk about things ahead of when they're supposed to be. But I'm also just kind of
understandable.
like, I want to get through this book. Like,
Because you're loving it so much.
shut up. I mean, maybe I don't know about loving it so much, but I'm enjoying that it's I'm
Yeah.
enjoying it.
The
I
next, yeah,
hate
I know it's so
myself,
good.
but
It's so good, Heather. Just let it be good. The next chapter, out of the frying pan into the fire. The chapter after that,
yeah.
queer lodgings, which I don't understand why there is not a hotel on Capitol Hill called this.
Oh my gosh. Like
Like, why
missed
have they not done this yet?
opportunity. That would
Anyway,
be so perfect.
and I'm not trying to be like anti
No,
anything. Like
that's no, that
people
is
would
just
flock
like
to this.
yes, that is such a
So
missed opportunity.
And
If I have any,
there's a giant bear in this chapter, and like that just lends itself to so much more stuff. So, I mean, come on.
oh,
Anyway, yeah. So I still
that's
think this is
actually kind of
Bilbo writing
brilliant.
this story.
Okay.
So, all right.
All right.
Anything else that stands out to you?
Okay. So when I first read this, I thought Gollum was calling himself precious,
Uh huh.
but he's talking to the ring.
We don't know that yet.
That's what it's sounding like.
That's what it's
Like,
sounding like. Yes. But what we also don't really know yet from this text in the video that I sent to you, from I think that's the Two Towers, is where that scene is where Gollum is talking to himself.
oh, of Andy's circus.
Yeah. So Circus
Okay.
is Gollum and Smeagol. And so we don't really know Smeagol yet. And so from the book that we're currently reading. And
Yeah.
so this is one of those things where this gets unpacked a little bit more. He could be talking to the ring. He could also be talking to another personality.
Right. And
And
Smeagol was who he was before
yes,
Gollum.
before the
Okay.
Gollum personality took over.
Got
And
it.
it
Right,
says
right,
in here,
right.
like he's so used to talking to himself because he's been alone all these years.
Yeah.
Right. And so he could just be talking to his best friend himself,
Himself.
the only person he knows. Right.
Okay. Right.
So yeah, so it's kind of intentionally, I think, a mystery here. Who's he talking to? Is he talking to the ring? Is he talking to, or for Bilbo, is he talking to the birthday present, or is he talking to himself? Who's he talking to? And so, yeah,
And
yeah.
he found the ring on his birthday, or he just was like,
Well,
this is my birthday present to myself,
well,
or
there's
different schools of thought here,
no, there are
or
not different schools of thought. It's how much do I want to tell you right now?
okay.
He acquired it on his birthday. He acquired it on what he said is his birthday.
Okay. But did
So
he like fight somebody for it? Did he murder? Did he murder? He murdered for this ring. He
can I just tell
straight up
you,
muck ducked somebody.
he muck ducked somebody. Listener,
No.
viewer, let me just tell you what, if you haven't watched this yet, this is revealed to us in, I think it's in the beginning of the Two Towers. They show this in the video and it's powerful, but Gandalf will explain this to Frodo in Fellowship of the Ring. Smeagol and his cousin, now this, don't laugh, his cousin Deagle,
Nope.
they're out fishing. And Deagle finds the ring in the fish bed or the waterbed,
Okay. Okay.
the riverbed. And so Smeagol sees it and he says, "You should give that to me. It's my birthday." And Deagle is like, "No, I'm not going to." And so then,
Finders keepers.
yeah, so then Smeagol kills him
Oh my gosh.
and takes the ring. And then he finds that it's powerful and it can make him invisible and all these different things. But people are like, "Hey, you killed your cousin and you're a super creep with your invisibility powers." And they drove him away. And so that's how he ended up in hiding from his people in the mountain.
Oh my word.
Yeah. So Gollum is a very tragic figure.
Complex.
He's complex for
Yeah.
sure. Here, he's just like this slimy monster thing that we're like, why is he, what's his deal? We don't know anything. So
Right.
that's revealed to us over time. And so right now, the ring is nothing to us other than just like some kind of magic ring.
Right.
But there are things indicated in this chapter and in the second paragraph. He tells suddenly his hand met what felt like a tiny ring of cold metal lying on the floor of the tunnel. It was a turning point in his career, but he did not know it. Like
Mm-hmm.
this ring, how did this ring get here in the tunnel? And then later, uh, there is a line where Gollum is like trying to go through his steps and stuff. He's like, "I lost it maybe back here when I got the squeaker," because he's killed a goblin a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is trying to backtrack, and then he says, my birthday present. It came to me on my birthday, my precious. And so like it came to me. Like the ring has some kind of will of its own.
Okay.
Don't, Heather, this is important. I told you this chapter is important.
Okay.
And so the ring, when Bilbo puts it on, it says he put his left hand in his pocket. The ring felt very cold as it quietly slipped on his groping finger. The ring
I
put
okay.
itself
Wow. I
on
didn't read it that way. I just thought like, sometimes when you jam your hands in pockets, like cookie crumbs and everything else that might be in there gets
right.
like
But
under your nails and
that's you doing that. Bilbo did
okay.
not. He just put his hand in his pocket and felt the ring quietly slipped on his groping finger. The ring has a will to it. And
So
then
then
wait,
when
one more
he
time. Next page. Gollum is freaking out and he's like, curse it. It slipped from us. After all these ages and ages, it's gone. The ring left Gollum. It slipped from us. And then one more time, as Bilbo is like about to go, you pointed out that the ring slipped off. Why
yeah.
would the ring slip off? The ring has a will of its own. It wants to be found, and it wants to get back to Sauron.
And that's the like
That,
I
yeah. Gollum has been living in this mountain by himself for ages.
uh-huh
The ring probably
doesn't
has
want to
a
be there anymore.
yes, and there's some things happening in the world. Some evil is awakening in the world. And the ring is like, I need to get back to that. And so it slipped off of Gollum's hand. It abandoned Gollum. It found Bilbo. And then it tried to trick Bilbo by slipping off his finger. And then the goblins saw it because the
Right.
goblins are evil. And the ring probably
So
thought
the
if I
ring
can,
likes the evil.
the ring wants to get back to the source of evil.
Oh my.
And so here, my theory is that the ring like tried to reveal Bilbo to the goblins. So as a roundabout way of saying the goblins will find this ring and they'll know where it comes from. They'll know that it needs to get back to Sauron. And because they want to be a part of Sauron's army, then they will try to get it to him. But Bilbo
Oh my lord.
realized what happened and he put it back on and escaped.
Okay, but like
But
how
Bilbo
would the
doesn't know how
normal
powerful this ring is. He doesn't know what this
yeah,
ring is. So
and how would I know that the goblins want to be a part of Sauron's army so that I could like read it this way? Because I just read it as like and it slipped back on. Not it. Oh my gosh. You're getting all of your books.
you
You're
got to
getting
read
all
these.
of your
You got to read these. All
how
these.
many books? Amazing. One
They fell
one
down.
quick that's okay. You've got a spreadsheet. One quick note. I was talking to one of my coworkers this week, and we were talking about some stuff that we're dealing or working through. And he was like, "Have you ever read or watched Lord of the Rings?" And I was like, "No, but my brother and I are doing a podcast." So I told him about it. So Gabriel, if you're listening, hi.
Hey, Gabriel.
Um, but he also mentioned something about Sauron. And so I was just like, oh, this name, I know it. So
It's important.
anyway, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this chapter, I told you, this chapter, not a lot happens, but it's super important. This
Okay.
riddles in the dark, because how did Gollum get the ring? He found it, or his cousin found it and he killed a man for it. But how did it get in the river in the first place?
Like,
And
would the ring have known that Gollum was evil? Or
well, Gollum
Smeagol
is,
wasn't evil but he had inklings
he
or
had,
hinting of evil.
he was drawn towards the darkness. He was willing to kill. for the
Tom
ring.
Marvolo Riddle.
Yeah,
He was
again,
Lord Voldemort.
she
Ripped
stole
it off.
from him.
Wow.
Yeah, I like people who are like Harry Potter is the best thing ever written. It's like, no, you're so wrong. Uh, Everything she's writing is borrowed, and that's saying it lightly, like nicely. Everything she's written is borrowed from other ideas. Tom Marovolo Riddle, whatever.
Marvolo.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, that is just right out like that whole part of the story. As I was reading the book, I was like, oh, this all sounds super familiar. I've read this before many times. Anyway, so the ring, back
Oh my gosh.
in
Get your
this book
books.
here in the
Which book is
Silmarillion,
this?
the
Oh, the
Silmarillion,
Silmarillion. Okay. Yes.
we this is one of a couple of editions I have. We learn
How
about the
many editions
war
of the Silmarillion do you have, Jason? Is it 3 or 4?
total. Like print, I
Oh,
have two, and then I have an ebook, and then I bought the Circus audiobook.
right. Right. I'm
Um,
sorry. It's the Untold Tales that you have like 3 or 4 copies of.
uh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, three, I think.
Okay.
Hush, hush.
Oh, right. Sorry, Kathy.
Uh, so in the Silmarillion, we learn about the ring and
Okay.
Sauron's crafting of the ring. We learn about the first war that defeated Sauron.
Wait, stop. Sauron is more than just like an evil eye.
Yeah, he's a person. He's a
He's a wizard.
no, well, kind of.
No.
He's a Maya.
What's a Maya? Oh
Uh,
my gosh.
it's like a
Can
fallen
you
elf
just
type
send me
person.
a copy of the Silmarillion
I
for
mean,
Christmas or
you,
something?
I could. I just need you to know you're not going to understand it. Like it's one of those books that you read and then you have to read it again after reading all of it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's so
Okay.
good though. It's like
Okay.
it's such a powerfully, wonderfully created world that Tolkien made. And when
Yeah.
you understand it, it's like, oh, this is actually like there's so much art here in his craft that is just like this is insanely beautiful and so well thought out. And so like a little children's tale like The Hobbit has this moment with this ring that is a part of this massive like thousands of years
Universe.
tale that
Yeah.
is so good. And so in this, the Isildur cuts off Sauron's finger, and this is all in the first couple minutes of Fellowship of the Ring, the movie. Okay,
Okay.
and so he cuts off Sauron's finger, cutting the ring off. And he has that moment. He can take the ring and he can throw it in the fire of Mount Doom where it was forged. And Elrond's with him in the movie, and Elrond is saying, "Throw it in, throw it in." And Isildur's holding the ring, and he looks at Elrond, and he's like, "No," and he keeps it. And then he dies. He gets shot in the back by an orc in a river, and the ring is lost for centuries.
Oh.
And then one day Deagle finds it and Smeagol kills him. And then so on down the road, the ring is doing this work of trying to get back to Sauron for hundreds of years.
Okay.
So good.
And Sauron is a Maya.
Yeah. So
This is going way off. It's okay.
this is all part of chapter 5. This is to make sense of chapter 5.
Okay. Go for it then. Explain.
So yeah, so Sauron is so there's a god in this universe, all right? And he makes everything through song. It's beautiful. And he
Written song.
no, he sings, and he actually sing like his first creations, they sing together. And
Oh.
it's beautiful. But there's one of these Maya named Melkor who introduces discord into the song. And Melkor becomes this evil, like essentially a fallen angel. The Maya are like angels. So he's like a
And
fallen angel.
all of his songs are in like
Well, kind
minor
of like
keys.
he's just consistently working against Iluvatar, the great one. And so from these different creations, then there's the elves, there's the dwarves, there's the orcs, all these different things. And so the Maya are this level of like angelic type beings,
Okay.
like above the elves, but below Iluvatar. And so they're like this supernatural type pantheon, we should
Okay.
say. So Melkor is this dark agent. He has a servant named Morgoth, and Morgoth is Sauron.
Why does everybody have to have so many different names?
Because they've lived so many lives, so long, and they have so many languages. Over thousands of years, languages change, and so they develop these different names, and they pick up new meaning to names, and they change their names, and like the Bible, like Jacob and Israel, right? Um,
Yeah. Okay.
People's names change, and
Okay.
so
Yes.
so yeah, so Sauron is so this ring that is just this dumb little thing in this book
Mm-hmm.
is a part of this larger thing that where like as Melkor is defeated, and so Sauron is like taking over, and he's constantly working against the elves. And so then he creates this ring, and the elves create their own rings, and then the dwarves, Sauron makes rings for the dwarves and the men, and he's trying to use the rings to kind of influence everybody to come to his side. And so it leads to this great war, and he is defeated, but he's not fully defeated because the ring, he poured all, it's this Horcrux idea. He poured all of his
Yeah.
malice and spite and rage into the ring, and it gave him power beyond just being invisible. It gave him power to like do terrible things. And we get a hint
Okay.
of the power here when Bilbo, wearing the ring, is able to jump beyond
Right.
what a hobbit could do. You know, that's a hint that this ring is more than just an invisibility ring. And so yeah, so this slimy little Gollum didn't know how much power he had for all these years. He just used it selfishly. And the
Oh,
ring, sensing that evil is rising up again in the world, it's like, now's the time. I have to get out of this cave.
gotta shoot my shot.
He did. Yeah, but he's a ring, right? And so like what can a ring do?
It
Slip
can roll
off
away.
and roll away. That's it.
Wow.
And it looks like it all has to happen by chance. But there is a guiding hand through this whole book and this whole series that is like where things look like they're just happening by chance. Finding Orcrist and Glamdring, like that's not
Right.
by chance. Those swords, this is where I need to be careful. Those swords were actually technically Elrond's swords because they were used by his like grandfather in the Goblin Wars. And so like by line of descent, those should be his swords. And so when he reads them and gives them back to Thorin and to Gandalf, this is
Yeah.
an act of great graciousness from Elrond to say like, I want you to have these. You're going to do more with these than I will. Like
Wow.
it's a really cool thing, but you don't know this if you're just reading the story. But like when you
Right.
go back and read it again, you're like, oh my gosh, those are Turgon swords. So
Turgon sounds like a name that you would have called me when we were growing up
I'm
instead
positive I
of.
did. I'm sure that happened. But listen, you little Turgon. Um, so or it's like something that you use to like clear out your septic system.
Yeah.
I got to get some
Turgon.
Turgon to get things moving in my bacteria field.
Gross.
Anyway, so yeah, so I told you this chapter is super important. This is
Okay.
one of like, it's just so tricksy how Tolkien puts it in here. And like, how much did Tolkien know he was going to do with the ring at this point? We don't really know because he was still developing the world as he's writing this. But this ring, like in the next chapter, Gandalf hears Bilbo's story and he's like, magic ring, huh? like, so, and
Right
Gandalf
up
has been
for
around for, hundreds and hundreds of years in Middle
Yeah.
Earth. And so
Right.
he knows some things about some rings, and he may have one of his own.
Right. He has one.
He has one of the elf rings. So, yeah. So it's going to make it suspicious. And Gandalf will always have a little bit of suspicion about how Bilbo can be invisible and what kind of ring this is. But he's not actually going to do the research about what this ring is until Fellowship of the Ring.
Okay.
So yeah.
Question though, the
Our previous app actually had a recording device and told me how long we've been recording. I have
I know
no
I don't,
idea.
I don't either. So this will be the last question then. Um, the the three books in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, those were written first, right? Or was
No.
The Hobbit written first?
Well, he was writing all kinds of stuff and developing all kinds of things. But The Hobbit was the first book that was published.
Oh,
So it stands alone. Like you could read this
okay.
by itself and be like, that was a really fun adventure story.
Sure.
But it's when you realize like, oh, there's actually so much more that it is like, oh, this is not just a lighthearted adventure tale. There's a whole world.
Huh.
There's lore and history in Middle Earth beyond just the small adventures of Bilbo Baggins. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Also, finally, sorry, this is the last question. Um, the books that we had as kids,
Mm-hmm.
The Hobbit had like it was Gollum and Bilbo on the
Right.
front, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I like vaguely remember it, but I remember thinking that it was like Bilbo's like reflection in a mirror or something, which I know is not accurate, but that's how like I remember it. Are you Googling
Yeah.
the
Hobbit cover creepy.
and when were these written? These
There it
were
is.
written in like the
Uh
30s, 40s, or later than
this
that.
one came out in 1937.
That's so bizarro.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all right, I found it. Let me see. I'm trying to get a good, well lit cover. All right. I want to open image in new tab. Nope.
I just
Open.
remember being so afraid of that cover as well because Gollum was creepy as heck.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure. All right. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to do a thing where I share my screen with everybody. It's this screen. I want everybody to see. I don't know how this is going to look, but this was the
ugh.
cover that we had growing up.
Yes.
And yeah, this exact cover,
That's
like
why I
that.
thought it was a mirror because that looks like a mirror. Like,
Right. It does look like a
okay.
mirror. Yeah, but this was a motif that was in all of the editions that we had. They all had this kind of like arch over them,
Yeah.
for different reasons. So yeah, so that's the Hobbit. Look, the Two Towers has one, like it has that. This is
Yeah.
Gimli and Legolas. Fellowship of the Ring. Oh, here's the series right here. So Fellowship that's Frodo and Gandalf,
Photo.
and then that's so dumb. That's the worst picture. That's Aragorn later. It's like the end of the book, right on the cover. So anyway,
Uh,
now how do I stop
and
sharing?
the guy from uh The Matrix is in the
Hugo
movies too,
Weaving.
right? That's
Yes,
his name.
he's Elrond.
That's okay. I did not know that, but that is who I pictured as I was reading this because I didn't know who he played. I just knew he was in. Okay, okay, cool, cool, cool. I'm getting
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Yeah. When the pieces start coming together, you're like, oh wow. And then you're like, wow, Orlando Bloom, you really didn't have much to do in this movie with talking. And then
Did you
later,
want to try to say that again? Because
like
I
he
feel
didn't
like
say a
you.
lot in the movie.
No, I just
There's
feel
a
like you kind of stumbled through that
I knew what I
sentence,
was
but
doing. I knew what I was doing.
okay.
There's a meme of like a video meme of, or his dad would say, Mimi of do you guys see this Mimi? Of all the times Legolas talks to Frodo in the Fellowship of the Ring or in the Lord of the Ring movies, and it's one line.
Oh my gosh.
You have my bow, and that's it.
So it was just him looking pretty.
Yeah, pretty
Is
much.
really all it was.
Yeah.
I sent Jason a meme yesterday of Gandalf talking to Frodo. And he's, what up, Frodo? Not much. Just been chilling in the Shire my entire life, like every hobbit ever, except for my uncle when you made him go on that ridiculous quest. Cool, cool. So are you into jewelry and walking a lot, or it's just I laughed really hard and The Heather of like 2 months ago would have seen that and been like, "Oh, this is
Just
the
keep scrolling.
dumbest."
Yeah, no, it's so good.
Yeah,
I've been sending you things that saying like this will be important later.
yeah,
In like 2 years, you're gonna laugh so hard.
right, right. If we keep this whole like one a week, one chapter a week going, uh
Yeah.
okay,
So anyway, that's that. I mean, we should
all
stop.
right, we should.
But yeah, listener, if you
So
have questions or if you listen to all of this, well, good for you. I'm proud of you. Um, but you probably need to take a break, probably need to go to the bathroom. You go for it. But if you do
we
have
can't see you.
questions, yeah, I don't care what you do. If you have questions, send us an email, hobbitforming@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram and threads, Hobbit Forming Pod on those things. Or join my YouTube channel, follow along. This is where the videos will be posted. And or subscribe through Spotify or
Spotify.
whatever you use. It should be available if you just know the RSS feed. Do you know what RSS stands for, Heather?
Really super stellar.
You're so close. Really simple syndication.
Really?
Yeah, RSS.
I'm dang.
You
Dang
were
it.
so
That's
close.
awesome. Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you know the RSS feed, it should be picked up anywhere. It's hosted through Spotify and all the different things. So thank you for going on this journey with us. Next week, we will read Out of the Frying Pan and Into the Fire. If you're watching the animated version of this, it is ridiculous. And the Hobbit version, the movie version of this next chapter is also quite ridiculous. But here come the Eagles, and
The
not from Philly.
Eagles.
Yeah, it's so great. And this is going to be a whole thing later. People will be like, why didn't the Eagles just in the whole time? Because it's not fun that way. So don't worry about it.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Jason, good morning.
Good morning to you.